Welcome back, Truth Seekers, to the True Alien Podcast. I'm Adrian Smith, your host for this daily dose of the weird and the unexplained. Buckle up, because each day we strap on our paranormal probes and dive into a real story, sifting through the strange to see what sticks.
And I'm Julia Jones. Someone has to be the voice of reason around here, right?
You got that right. And today's story, well, let's just say things get pretty shadowy.
Shadowy is an understatement. We're talking possible interdimensional travel, whispers from the unknown, and a desperate fight for survival.
Our story begins in a psych ward.
Always a good start.
We meet Maya, a troubled teenager. She claims that shadows are whispering to her about an invasion. Now, I know what you're thinking.
Teenager in a psych ward, probably just an overactive imagination.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But hold on, because this is where it gets interesting.
Maya's claims definitely raise some eyebrows, especially given the circumstances, but there's a thread here that connects to some pretty mind-bending physics. We're talking about the possibility of other dimensions.
Whoa, other dimensions? Do you mean like parallel universes and all that?
Exactly. Now, while it's often relegated to science fiction, the idea of multiple dimensions isn't totally out there. Some theoretical physicists believe there could be a whole spectrum of dimensions beyond our own. Some we might even be able to interact with under the right conditions.
Okay, that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But how does a teenager in a psych ward tie into all of this theoretical physics?
Well, that's where Alex Novak comes in.
Who's Alex?
He's a paranormal blogger desperate for his big break. He sees Maya's case as a potential gold mine.
So he goes to meet her.
Yeah, he decides to meet her, hoping to uncover the truth behind these whispers, these cryptic whispers she's hearing.
So we've got a troubled teenager, a skeptical blogger, and wait, there's more, isn't there?
There's always more. What makes this even more intriguing is that Maya's claims seem to intersect with the work of Dr. Evelyn Cross.
Who's that?
She's a physicist. She's been researching interdimensional travel. Her theories have landed her on the fringes of the scientific community.
Oh, okay. So we have a disgraced physicist in the mix now. This is shaping up to be quite the team. What exactly did Dr. Cross find that connects with Maya's story?
Dr. Cross has been picking up some strange readings in her lab, specifically deliberate fluctuations in dark matter.
Dark matter fluctuations.
Right.
For those of us who aren't astrophysicists, could you maybe unpack that a bit?
Well, think of dark matter as this invisible scaffolding for the universe. We can't see it directly, but we know it's there because of its gravitational effects. Now, any fluctuations, any changes in this dark matter could suggest something is trying to communicate or even travel between dimensions.
So we've got a potential signal from another dimension, a teenager who can hear it, and a physicist who's been studying this very phenomenon. What happens next?
Well, Alex, ever the opportunist, sees the connection between Maya's claims and Dr. Cross's research. He convinces the doctor to team up with him.
They team up?
And together, they create what they call a shadow bunker to investigate further.
A shadow bunker? That sounds intense.
It is, and what's fascinating is that Maya's ability to see into this other dimension, this shadow world, as she calls it, becomes their key. She reveals that the invaders are observing us, learning our behaviors, and even starting to imitate us.
Hold on. Imitate us? Like trying to blend in?
Exactly. Maya describes it as trying on skins. It's as if these entities are attempting to possess people, taking over their bodies and mimicking their actions.
Okay, now that's creepy. And this talk of imitation, it makes you think about those unsettling reports of missing persons returning, different, acting strangely.
You're right, there are some chilling parallels there. What if those missing persons were the unfortunate test subjects for this shadow invasion? What if these entities were practicing their skin-wearing abilities?
So with this unsettling information in hand, what do Alex and Dr. Cross do? Do they just sit in their shadow bunker and wait for the invasion?
Not exactly. Dr. Cross, being the brilliant mind that she is, comes up with a plan to disrupt the shadow network using a device she's created. The idea is to force these interdimensional invaders to manifest in our world where they can be confronted.
Now that sounds incredibly risky. I mean, who knows what could happen when you start messing with interdimensional forces?
It's definitely a gamble, and the consequences could be unpredictable. But with a potential invasion looming, they feel it's a risk worth taking.
So where do they even begin to look for this so-called shadow network? Do they have any leads?
Remember those dark matter fluctuations Dr. Cross has been tracking? Well, she pinpoints the strongest signals to an abandoned observatory on Mount Sutton. It seems the shadows have been using the old power grid to amplify their signal, making the observatory their central hub.
An abandoned observatory on a remote mountain. Sounds like the perfect setting for a horror movie.
And believe me, What happens at that observatory is truly the stuff of nightmares. But we'll have to save that part of the story for part 2 of our paranormal probe. Stay tuned, folks, because things are about to get really strange.
Welcome back to the True Alien Podcast, where we're strapping on our paranormal probes and venturing deep into the shadows.
We left off with our intrepid trio, Alex, Dr. Cross, and Maya. They're heading towards an abandoned observatory on Mount Sutton, the suspected epicenter of this shadow network.
Yeah, you mentioned things were about to get nightmarish.
Oh, they do. Picture this. A skeletal observatory silhouetted against a darkening sky, wind whipping through the crumbling structure. Our team arrives, the atmosphere thick with tension. Maya, especially, seems to feel the presence of the shadows, a palpable sense of dread hanging in the air.
I can only imagine the feeling. So what happens next? Do they just walk right into this interdimensional lion's den?
Dr. Cross, ever the pragmatist, she focuses on setting up her disruptor device. She believes it can overload the shadow network, severing their connection to our world. But remember, tampering with interdimensional energies is a dangerous game. There's no telling what the consequences might be.
Right, it's like trying to swat a fly with a sledgehammer. You might get the fly, but you might also wreck the whole house.
Exactly. But they're desperate, and this seems like their only shot at stopping the invasion.
So they're at the observatory, the disruptor is in place. What happens when they flip the switch?
Everything changes. The shadows, they manifest.
Wait, they actually appear.
They do.
What do they look like?
Imagine insectile silhouettes, flickering in and out of reality. Their very presence seems to warp the fabric of our world. It's like something straight out of a nightmare.
That's terrifying. How do Alex and Dr. Cross react?
They're completely outmatched. They're facing creatures beyond human comprehension. But Dr. Cross, even in the face of pure terror, she manages to activate the disruptor.
And does it work?
There's this blinding flash, a deafening shriek that seems to pierce the very fabric of reality. And then silence. The shadows vanish. They just dissolve like smoke. It seems the network is collapsing. For a brief moment, they think they've won.
But we all know it's never that easy, Raisin. You mentioned unpredictable consequences.
You're right. As they're catching their breath, trying to process what they just witnessed, Alex notices something strange in the sky. A single star, pulsing with an unnatural light, begins to descend towards them, moving with impossible speed.
Uh-oh. That can't be good.
It's not. Maya, still shaken from the encounter, reveals a chilling truth. One of the shadow entities saw into her mind during the confrontation. It knows where they are, and it's coming for them.
So even though they disrupted the network, they've made a powerful enemy.
They barely escape the observatory before it's incinerated by a beam of light from the descending star. The world doesn't end that night. The immediate threat is gone, but the experience changes them forever. They know the truth, and they know it's only a matter of time before those shadows return.
So what do? Do they go into hiding? Try to warn the world?
It's not that simple. Who would believe them? The government is already spinning stories about solar flares and mass hysteria to cover up what really happened at the observatory.
So they're on their own then, facing a threat that no one else believes in. What a burden.
It seems that way. Alex, defeated, tries to return to some semblance of normalcy. But then he gets a mysterious phone call. A woman with a vaguely familiar voice offers him a proposition to join a group of shadow hunters, people dedicated to fighting this interdimensional threat.
Hold on. A secret society of shadow hunters. That's a twist.
It is, and it highlights the unsettling reality they now face. The war for our world has just begun, and they're on the front lines.
We've gone from whispers in a psych ward to a full-blown interdimensional battle. It's a lot to process.
It really is. And it makes you wonder, what are the long-term implications of this encounter? How do you prepare for a threat you barely understand?
Those are some big questions. And I don't know about you, but this paranormal probe has left me with a serious case of the chills.
I understand. But remember, even in the face of the unknown, knowledge is power. The more we learn about the universe around us, the better equipped we'll be to face whatever challenges come our way. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the mysteries of the shadow world. Stay tuned for the final part of our paranormal probe.
Welcome back to the True Alien Podcast. We're wrapping up this wild story about interdimensional shadows. You know, it really makes you wonder what other secrets are hiding just beyond our perception.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? The universe is full of mysteries.
Yeah.
There's always something more to discover.
This whole thing with the shadows, it raises so many questions. I mean, what does it mean for humanity's future? How do we prepare for something we don't even understand?
It's definitely a challenge, but I think it's important to remember that fear often comes from the unknown. The more we learn about these phenomena, the better we'll be able to handle them.
So what should our listeners do? Start building shadow bunkers in their backyards. Stock up on disruptor devices.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. But staying informed is key. Keep reading about these topics, listen to podcasts like ours, and talk to others who share your interests.
That's right, folks. Never stop being curious. It's what pushes us to explore, to learn, and to expand the boundaries of what we know.
And don't be afraid to question things. Weigh the evidence, form your own opinions, but always be open to the possibility that there's more to the universe than we can currently grasp.
Well said. The truth is out there, as they say. And who knows what other amazing things we'll find as we keep probing into the unknown.
Until next time, keep looking up, keep those questions coming, and never stop exploring.
Thanks for joining us on the True Alien Podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with another mind-blowing story from the fringes of reality. Until then, stay curious and stay safe.